Hello, everybody. I am Brad Charles. I am a professor of law at Cooley Law School in Lansing, Michigan, and I am a skills guy at our school. I teach largely the research and writing classes, and then I, along with Professor David Finnegan, co-coach our Jessup International Law Moot Court Competition team. Dave, you want to introduce
Uh,
yourself? Okay.
yeah, hi everyone. I'm Dave Finnegan. I'm also a professor at Cooley Law School in Lansing. I teach the required property law courses, so I'm primarily a property guy, but I also teach upper level electives on various international law topics. And for more than a decade, I have coached and helped prepare our student Jessup Moot Court team. So Brad and I are kind of the co-faculty advisors and coaches to our student team.
Okay, so just really quickly, the purpose is the executive director asked us to just make a video explaining our process. We've been tinkering with it over the years, and we think we've figured out a good program where we can, take our team a long way, usually in most competitions. So we're happy to share that with you guys. So we'll start here with the big picture of what we do, and then we'll get into a little more detail after that.
Yeah, so we view the Jessup program as really taking place over an entire year's competition season. And so we kind of think about the work that we do in preparing our Jessup team as sort of starting in the summer, proceeding into the fall, going into the winter leading up to the U.S. regional competition. So in the summer, one of the things that we try to do as coaches to prepare for the fall, the beginning of the fall competition season, is to learn the issues that will be in play for that year's Jessup problem. Usually every May, ILSA will release a short blurb, a paragraph, or maybe four sentences, briefly describing each of the four main issues for the coming competition season's problem. So we take that blurb and then we try to learn about those issues so that heading into the fall, we'll be better prepared to advise the team. And so that's something that we spend part of the summer doing. Um, we try to, based on the reading and research that we do over the summer, create a handful of research guides that we give to the team and with the hope of helping them jumpstart a research project into the issues that they're going to be focusing on. We also take the summer to choose the team, and that's something that we'll talk a little bit more about coming up. In the fall, we actually run a class for the team. So having chosen the team over the summer, the five students on the team at our law school earn academic credit for the work they put into preparing for the competition. And over the past few years, what we've done is prepare and run a formal class for the five members of the Jessup team to get them ready for the competition season. And over the course of the fall, in connection with that class, the team jumps into the research on the four Jessup issues and at least begin a draft of the memorials that they'll end up submitting to ILSA as part of the competition in the beginning of January. And then in the winter term, after the memorials are submitted, we take a deep dive into oral argument practice. And between the time the memorials are submitted and the time of the regional competition, we hold weekly oral argument practices to get the team ready for the regionals, and we'll say something more about that in a moment. And then, of course, that all leads up to the U.S. regional competition, and hopefully, based on success there, to the international rounds as well.
Okay, so that's the big picture. Let's just take each kind of season of our process or program in a little more detail. So first of all, in the summer, we choose the team. And the goal is always to have the entire team selected by the time the problem is released, usually around September 15 or so. So we shoot to have it done, to have the team in place by June or late July. We run a summer term at Cooley, so we want to get it done before finals and things like that. So number one, how do we choose a team? We're always looking for talent. We talk with other professors about people that they notice. We judge other competitions at the school, like the intra-school mock trial competition and moot court competitions. We even sometimes judge, national competitions that come to our campus. So we're always just judging and always aware of the talent at our school. So we kind of have a running list. We talk with other professors as well about who might be a good candidate for Jessup. We rely a lot on the hype from the previous year because we do a pretty good job of marketing how well the team is doing at the competition, and then that gets other students excited. So they actually approach Dave and myself and say, hey, I'm really interested in the team. I'd like to try out. So that creates a lot of buzz as well. And then we have a rule that if you serve on the team one year, you presumptively may serve again the following year. And so like this year we have three of the 5 returning members coming back. Some years it's none, some years it's 2. So it just depends on how many returning members we have and what's going on in their lives. In terms of the details for the auditions, number one, we do run auditions. We put out a call in June. We just email the entire student body and we open up to everybody. We explain what Jessup is in that email and invite them to an audition. Now for the audition, we create a small problem that's it's like basically instead of doing like a 25, 22, 23 minute oral argument, they do a 5-minute oral argument on one very small international law issue. So we'll give them a little fact pattern, we'll give them some law, we don't require them to do any research. And then just based on that law and that fact pattern, they put together an oral presentation that should take no more than 5 minutes. They come into a room and they present their oral argument, and then we kind of have a discussion with them about their interest in Jessup and their life and how well they did, and we give them a little feedback and things like that. So that's the audition. And then we select the team, like I said, by June or so. So that's what we do in the summer to choose the team, in addition to researching the topics and making the research guides.
All right. Well, the competition season kicks off in earnest once the Jessup problem is released, typically in mid to late September. And so we use the fall term to really focus on preparing the team. And what we've been doing of late is requiring the team to take a formal class that is designed to prepare them for the competition. I mean, that is true, but the class also more generally coaches them up, trains them on basic international law. It helps them develop more effective research skills, particularly international legal research skills. We really focus on developing effective written and oral advocacy. So the class really serves an educational purpose beyond Jessup. But we do focus the team on the 4 specific topics, and we provide advice to them on how to jumpstart a research project on those topics, how to begin formulating and organizing arguments, how to use sources of international law to support the arguments that they want to make. As part of the class, they end up drafting a memorial. We have draft conferences to provide some feedback. The class also involves what we call podium exercises. These are opportunities for students to get up at a podium and make a formal presentation. For example, one podium exercise we have them do is to practice responding to questions from the bench about sources of international law, and where the source material that they are invoking as part of their argument fits in with the framework, for example, provided by Article 38.1 of the ICJ statute. In that class, among the materials that we ask the students to read and work with are the White and Case Jessup guides that ILSA makes available in collaboration with White and Case. We find those guides to be very effective at giving or helping the students develop a sense of what the competition is all about, what international law is all about, what international advocacy is all about. And then finally, for substantive topics of international law that we want the students to become familiar with, like the law of sources or the law of treaties or the law of state responsibility, we are big fans of Malcolm Shaw's single volume treatise on public international law. We find that text to be written in an accessible style, detailed enough, providing sufficient citation to authority, that it's really a good learning tool.
Okay, so that's the fall class. Over the break, the December break, we encourage them to keep working on the memorials kind of on their own. And then after they submit the memorials in early January, then we begin the exciting but also very strenuous schedule of practicing oral arguments. And this is where you see a lot of growth in the students when they have to stand up and make their arguments and then get feedback from their team members and feedback from us as coaches. The way we run it is we meet 3 times a week. Just generally, it's usually in the evenings because that's when everybody's available. And we meet usually between 2 and 3 hours, and that gives us time for each of the 4 oralists to argue. And then, of course, of counsel is there also, kind of working on a system for how the of counsel works with the oralists. But we encourage them to do a presentation at every single practice. So, in total, they're practicing between 12 and 16 times before they get to the actual competition. Now, in terms of podium notes, there's a lot of different approaches to this. The main thing is, as long as they're effectively using what's ever in front of them, they really can't go wrong. An ineffective use of notes would be where somebody's just reading them and relying too heavily on them. The oralist, to do well, really has to appear to pull everything out of their brain and to know the case inside and out, to know the law inside and out. And so whatever they bring up needs to be minimally used. And so what the approach we start with is we tell our oralists, just go up there with no notes. You've been writing the memorial for like 3-4 months. You know this stuff really well. Get up there and just talk about your arguments, talk about the case. And so we get them comfortable with using no notes and just speaking kind of off the top of their head. And then they kind of realize, at the beginning of the practices in January, like, oh, that was kind of messy. Let me clean that up. I can organize that better. And so they'll develop their own system for how they kind of want to organize things. And then the other option is some students are like, oh, I can't go up there with no note. That's too much. So for those students, we say, okay, bring up one sheet of paper that has the basics of what you want to convey. So that would be the main arguments you want to make. And then maybe perhaps some questions that you're going to be asked, some notes on those, but really kind of minimal notes. And then other teams are binder teams where they help their students develop binders. We're not that. So, but at the panels that Jessup has, you can ask questions about those and ask other profs that are coaches and that do the binder system. They can give you more advice on that.
All right. Well, all of that leads up to the regional competition, and Brad and I every year travel with the team to wherever that competition is held. In advance of the competition, one piece of advice that we have is take advantage of your opponent's memorials that will be sent to you a week or so in advance of the competition. Read through those opponent memorials carefully, because one, that'll give you a sense of the type of argument you're likely to hear from the other side, but it may also actually give you some good ideas about how to adjust your arguments or how to expand or contract or whatever. So, one piece of advice is to make sure the team takes a quick look at that. One of the things that we do when we travel with the team, or one of our main jobs, is just to help manage the nerves and just to be there to provide support because the competition is pretty intensive in that manner. We are available throughout the competition, not only to provide feedback on how a particular round went and help them make adjustments based on that feedback, but also if they want to have extra practices in between rounds to run through their arguments, we're available to help them out with that and to provide feedback. At the end of the day, I think Brad and I both take to heart one of the primary purposes of the Jessup competition, and that is just to keep law student engagement with international law alive, to keep international law alive in the minds of lawyers who are being trained around the world. And so we always keep in mind that participating in Jessup is first and foremost an educational experience. You get to learn about international law generally. You are engaged with cutting edge issues, impacting the international legal system that are present in the Jessup problem. And although winning is great, and we want to, be able to field a competitive team as legal educators, that's our primary focus. And so at the end of the day, we try to take a positive attitude about all of this and be very supportive of the team. And I think that, one thing that we hear from our teams every year is that their experience participating in the Jessup competition is really the highlight of their time at law school. And we'd like to keep it that way. So that's kind of our outlook.
Okay, so that is our process. We're trying to keep this under 3 hours, so we'll call it good there. You can find our contact information on cooley.edu under the faculty section. You can look us up and find us there. Okay, thank you.